Welcome everyone to our webinar today, Top 5 Education HR Trends in 2024. We love doing this every year. We love being able to share the data with you, and we're excited to dive into that today. Before we get started, we just have a few welcome items. As you can see in your panel, you are able to utilize that chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the session, so please submit questions, comments, best practices, anything you feel like sharing in the chat with us, and we can review that at the end of the session. Also, if you're having any audio issues, please use the audio drop-down. There you can either join via computer or phone, and there's options for that there. Lastly, just a reminder that we always send out our content after our webinars. So tomorrow in your email inbox, look for a recording of the presentation, the slides, and we will also be sending you our full education trends report. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our speakers. I'm Vanessa Redden. I am the marketing campaign manager here with NeoEd. I do work on some content for NeoEd as well as email campaigns. I also work with some of our third-party partners to kind of help spread our brand and share just some of what we're doing with our partners. So yeah, I'll go ahead and turn it over to our speakers today, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Thanks, Vanessa. Go ahead, Jake.
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everybody. I'm Jake Gerard. I'm the Director of Sales for NeoEd. I've been with the organization just over 11 years, and I'm based out in Boston, Massachusetts. Fun fact about me, I just had a newborn child, a boy. He's 8 months old, and I've been working with hundreds of colleges and universities over the last 11 years. Looking forward to sharing some of the information here from our survey as of 2023.
And I'm Josh Schneider. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships here at NeoEd. I've been with the organization now for over 7 years. Before I transitioned to a career in technology, I actually spent 6 years in higher ed administration at Rollins College down here in Winter Park, Florida. I live just north of that in Stanford, and the weather is beautiful here if you're wondering. I don't mean to bum anybody out if it's a little cold for your taste, but we'll go ahead and jump right in here. So each year, if you're familiar with our trend survey and report, we survey our education customers to gain insights into the HR challenges they expect to face in the new year. The trends report summarizes that data and provides valuable analysis and research on HR and education, as well as recommendations for those facing challenges. It's always good to benchmark what your peers are doing, and we hope you get to see some of that here today. So just a little bit about who we surveyed. We had 275 plus education HR professionals respond. HR generalists, managers, directors, recruiters, and administrators. Basically every function within HR is represented here in the survey results. The types of institutions, about 40% of the respondents were from four-year colleges and universities, 38% from two-year colleges, and then 10% each K through 12 and school districts. So definitely some representation from K through 12 here as well. All right, and we're going to open up with a poll question, so we invite your participation. Please join in. We're asking you, what are your top priorities for 2024? This is very similar to what we asked the folks who participated in the survey that led to our trends report. So we ask you to choose your top three, and as you respond here, we'll go over the results and we'll dive right into the report.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for those submissions. We really appreciate it. The results of the survey are very much in alignment with the results that we saw from the survey in our customers. Saw about 64% of you saying that recruitment was a focus, about 67, or maybe that's vice versa, on the retention side of the house there. Definitely the standout categories from our survey in 2023. Going into 2024, educational institutions are battling the effects of high turnover while taking strides to improve the employee experience. With a fair distribution of results across those top 5 priorities you're going to see here on the screen, retention was at 38%, clearly one of those top response from our respondents as a part of that survey, as well as recruiting at 32% as a priority yet another year. In 2022, we also saw this result from the respondents of our survey. And this is signaling that hiring woes are far from over in education today. Operational efficiency, employee development, and skill development were also among the top challenges and areas of improvement that will influence your retention and your recruitment efforts, right? As well as help you prioritize some of those 2024 strategic initiatives for your organization. And so next, we're going to take a look at some of those strategies to address these top trends.
All right, so let's examine why retention is the #1 priority for educational institutions and how HR professionals can improve their efforts, overcoming staffing shortages.
Yeah, so overcoming staffing shortages, what you see here on the screen, employee turnover. This chart on the right is showing the top reasons for employee turnover in 2023. Turnover continues to be a plague for educational institutions. Nearly 75% of respondents are experiencing staffing shortages today, which adds more strain on staff and increases the need for overtime work. This is a compounding effect. These are two key factors that lead to burnout and turnover. Besides higher pay or retirement, the next most cited reason for employee turnover is poor management and lack of flexibility. This is true from the experiences that I've had with hundreds of colleges and universities over the last decade or so. Employees are leaving because of bad management, which can signal underlying issues such as things like micromanagement behaviors, limited autonomy for employees in their work, or disengagement. All of this is leading to low morale and ultimately high turnover. As we go to the next slide, focusing on some of these retention strategies. Most institutions plan to improve retention this year by expanding their wellness and professional development resources. It's worth noting that the third highest strategy is offering more competitive base salaries. This shows that even with limited budgets, institutions are having to make these adjustments to the talent that they need. They're also offering more flexible arrangements, which directly addresses one of the top reasons why employees are leaving that we just discussed. This flexibility in work can also help alleviate some of the strain on overworked employees and that overtime that folks are experiencing today. And so let's dive further into some of these top strategies here to provide more examples of wellness offerings. Great, so as you can see on the screen here, as we just talked about, understaffing and increased overtime can quickly lead to overwhelm, stress, burnout, ultimately turnover. So more institutions are recognizing that giving employees access to more wellness resources will be key to helping bring retention in 2024. Here are the main ways institutions plan to do that. So you'll see here expanding wellness benefits, like providing access to therapy and wellness apps. Educational programs like bringing in guest speakers on nutrition or mental health. Team activities such as potlucks, birthdays, volunteer days, and flexible work options for appropriate roles. These are just some of the ways that you can help support your employees, create more balance in the workplace, and create a happier and more inclined institution going into 2024.
Yeah, those are great retention strategies, Drake. As we transition into our next topic, which is about recruiting a younger generation, I'm kind of reflecting on my time in academic administration. There are a ton of benefits to working in education, whether it's the summers off, many other factors that you lose when you go into the private sector. And I think those are really important to reinforce with current employees and also when you're recruiting a new workforce, which is actually our next trend, recruiting a younger generation. So Jake, I'll let you dive right into that one.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. And as the market leader in higher education today, these are definitely some of the conversations that we're having on a regular basis with all of you here present, as well as the rest of the industry at large. And many of the institutions that we surveyed are focusing on developing a strong employer brand to better connect with millennials and Gen Z. This helps introduce them to your culture, values, goals, so they're able to expect and start engaging with your organization with things they can apply right away. Here you can see some top strategies institutions will use to improve their employer brand. Better onboarding and social media are key to creating good first impressions for millennial and Gen Z workers. These generations love their technology and spend a lot of time on social networks. I also spend a lot of time on social networks. I know how important that is for branding, right? And also creating a personal brand within an institutional brand. And so social media is a great place to recruit and connect with potential candidates. It's an easier, more efficient way to onboard. Finding those easier and more efficient ways of the onboarding process gives them a positive employee experience so that they can be really productive even starting on their first day. So looking at some of those ways that we're thinking about planning for retirement. When we say planning for retirement, according to the US Census Bureau, all baby boomers will reach retirement age by 2030. It's estimated that nearly 10,000 boomers are going to reach retirement age every day. In our most recent survey, institutions expect 5 to 10% of their employees to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. Right? This baby boomer generation is retiring. We're starting to see that trend already today. But one of the most shocking things we found is that 30% of respondents will retire 11 to 30% of their employees in that time. We're seeing an even higher percentage from our respondents that retirements are going to occur during that time frame based on what they're seeing in their succession planning or their view of succession planning today. With this in mind, what's just as shocking is that succession planning is not a high priority for most survey respondents. But in 2024 and beyond, especially at institutions to bring in younger talent, succession planning is going to be critical. We have to start thinking about how we're bringing this new Gen Z and millennial generation into backfilling those positions and creating new positions that help us to do more with less. And so not only can this provide new hires with a career path to grow within the institution, but it also provides opportunities for mentors to support their success and to set realistic expectations for employees into the future. And so looking at some creative ways to fill these jobs and attract that millennial and Gen Z generation is a struggle, right? It's a struggle to find qualified applicants. We are seeing a decrease in number across the nation in qualified applicants applying to jobs. And many institutions are trying some of these strategic approaches to attract talent to their open jobs. Some of the favored recruitment methods that you can see here are common in education, like career fairs, alumni network relations, referral programs, tuition reimbursement, right? All these things that we've heard a lot about within your institutions over the years. And on top of that, we also see the continuing trend of offering more flexible work options, as mentioned earlier. But another strategy here to note in 2024 is loosening hiring requirements. We've talked about ban the box. We've talked about ways in which we can open up these requirements to be more inclusive and focus on some of those DEI initiatives. And most institutions have started to loosen the degree requirements for teaching roles, especially, focusing a lot of times on adjunct faculty or technical skills. Teachers can be some of the hardest roles to hire in some cases, technical roles as well, right? Especially adjuncts. And in some cases, it can be worth considering loosening those requirements to help fill some of those gaps in your current staffing shortages.
And Jake, this is another thing I've experienced in my time in higher education specifically. I both served as an adjunct faculty member coming out of industry. I thought it was an extremely rewarding experience to be able to give back. And as my time getting an MBA at Rollins, some of the classes that I enjoyed the most were ones with folks who actually were still working in industry actively. We're sitting as adjunct faculty members teaching a handful of classes that were very specific to their background and experience. And it is a really wonderful balance with the tenured faculty. I know that can be a hairy situation in certain institutions, but if navigated correctly, it can really enrich the classroom experience for the students and help to augment some of the gaps that you might have recruiting teaching roles.
Yeah, thanks for that, Josh. And we work with a large majority of some of the largest state college and university systems in the U.S. today at NeoEd. We've heard this across the board at our events, some of the largest conferences in higher ed throughout the nation, where folks have said, hey, we've had to make different requirements in order to really be competitive and find that talent that's going to help support our workforce into the future. And so, yeah, definitely some great feedback we're seeing in the survey here.
And that brings us to our next trend. The third trend we identified is that institutions are turning to technology, something very near and dear to our hearts here at NeoEd, to improve the onboarding process in 2024. And let's talk about why that is.
Yeah, so you can see here improving onboarding efficiency. We're gonna kick off at that level here. Many institutions are struggling to maximize their operational efficiency, especially in processes that are overly manual or paper-based. It's hard to work efficiently, right, when you're using paper and you have manual processes. These struggles are exacerbated by staffing shortages, and this negatively impacts operations overall. 29% of survey respondents said they had to reduce course offerings, and 20% had to increase class sizes, right? So doing more with less. And with all that said, over 50% of respondents ranked onboarding as one of the top HR areas to automate in 2024. Why is onboarding a key priority this year? Well, earlier we talked about the top 5 priorities for institutions in 2024. Operational efficiency and employee engagement came in as 3 and 4. And the onboarding process plays a large part in both those categories. A great onboarding process is going to help create a smooth transition into your institution for new employees. It's going to help them get engaged. It's going to help them understand the culture right from day one. It's really telling the way that the top respondents plan to increase employee engagement here in 2024 is by improving that onboarding process. Better onboarding helps new hires be more productive sooner. It makes them feel a part of the team, and it's going to help with motivation overall for productivity purposes. And so today, operational efficiency is maximized by using HR technology to automate and streamline everyday processes. For onboarding, that's not only keeping that process organized for new hires, but it's massively reducing the burden for HR professionals. All of you likely who are on the call here today coming from that HR background in large part. And so no more shuffling of papers for HR, finance, no more email, lost transactions, lost information, frustration, right? All these human related error that we're also familiar with. Streamlining the onboarding process with technology helps to make everybody's life easier.
I know I'm preaching to the choir for the folks who've joined us here, but you know, my time both as an adjunct and administration at 2 different institutions, a lot of the chatter in the halls was how difficult the technology of the organization was to work with. I'm sure you all have had to feed that feedback and given that feedback at times. But you know, the onboarding technology that you use is a great way to set the tone for new hires, to let them know, hey, this organization is running effective and efficiently, and to give them a really positive outlook on their choice to join your organization. Brings us to our next trend, which is improving communication and skill development. We found that communication skills and management skills are one of the top areas that need the most improvement in education, according to the HR leaders that responded. And I'll let Jake dive right into that one.
Yeah, workforce communication is becoming more challenging with the increase of remote work and that growing multi-generational split that we talked about. So, and you know, considering the priorities of institutions are to provide more flexible work, recruit millennials and Gen Z this year, we anticipate that this challenge again is not going away anytime soon. We are really thinking about how we can do more with less. Earlier, we saw that poor management again, is ranked at that top reason why employees are leaving educational institutions. This is a sign of the friction that came with our changing times, the new norm, right? What does that look like? Well, the need to recognize and adapt to that shift in the workplace is so critical. When you factor in younger generations of workers, new technology solutions, and workplace flexibility, developing soft skills like communication and improving management are key to keeping employees engaged, motivated, and happy employees. Yeah, career development opportunities for 2024. Thinking more about skill development. These opportunities for growth are key to employee retention. That's the #1 priority for institutions this year, retention. Employees want to feel that the institutions they work for are focused on their career growth. They value their contributions, that employees are encouraged to promotional advancement, right? By offering this, it's a real positive impact on organizations that will be far-reaching. Based on the survey data, we can see where institutions are making efforts to establish and improve professional development options in 2024.
Thanks, Jake. That brings us to our final trend, building culture with employee engagement. We found that institutions are recognizing the importance of building a great workplace culture, and in 2024, they're prioritizing employee engagement to take it to the next level.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. In our survey, when we were asked to describe institutional culture, responses were mixed. Most respondents said that their culture is collaborative, supportive, and inclusive. But some say it's outdated, still siloed, stressful. You can all imagine there's a variety of reasons that we're getting these answers. Probably you've lived through many of them yourselves, but overall, this signals that there's a lot of room for improvement and how we create these educational advancements to attract and retain top quality talent. So, where are your peers starting to improve their culture in 2024? You guessed it, employee engagement. Engaged employees are the building blocks to a collaborative, supportive, and inclusive environment. This is the foundation for your workplace culture. Engaged employees spread positive remarks about your institutions to others, encouraging them to see what the hype is all about. They're motivated, they're enthusiastic, they're innovative, they want to help with goals and strive to do greater things. For all these reasons and many more, employee engagement is so vital to your organization's success. Here are some of the top ways you can see on the screen. Survey respondents plan to improve engagement in 2024. We talked about the onboarding process and skill development earlier, and you see it's still relevant. Institutions are also putting focus on training managers to foster employee growth, better communicating employee goals so that they know how they're contributing to the strategic organizational success, and sending employee feedback surveys to understand what's going on that's positive or might be an area for opportunity. All of this is going to help with that alignment. Other effective strategies for keeping employees engaged in their work and your institution as a whole include recognizing and rewarding employees to celebrate institutional and individual success. That power of acknowledgement is so critical. I can speak to that on a personal note and what it's done to help share accomplishment and create a positive workforce. Creating employee resource groups so that they can connect with each other and they can talk about similar interests, experiences, and aspirations to create a community at your institution and district. And all of these are stepping stones to better employee engagement, which ultimately leads to a better workplace culture.
Yeah, not to draw too much on my own personal experience, but this one really hits home for me. I remember in my time working in academic administration, I could walk into one office and have someone talking about how it really felt like a family at the school that we were all working at, and then I'd walk into another office and that word siloed, I heard that far too often. It's the nature of education to some degree by design, specifically higher education, but the difference between those two folks is the one who felt like their institution was a family, with the ones who were really engaged, cross departments, in activities, participating in employee resource groups and things like that, stepping outside of their function, engaged in other areas of the organization, and with programs that were set up to make them feel engaged and enriched in their job. That wraps up our trends. So we do have one more poll question. Do you plan on leveraging technology to attract more qualified candidates and retain and develop current employees? So we'll launch that question and we'll go over the results. Sorry.
Yeah, a resounding yes. Some yes, and I don't know where to start. A couple no's in there as well. And yeah, we really appreciate the responses. Thanks for providing those. We really appreciate your time and talking through some of these trends today. And so we have a few key takeaways. We're going to provide some resources here, and just want to say thank you everybody for your time here today.
Yeah, so just some key takeaways. Prioritizing succession planning and long-term strategic planning, big theme here, as we found in our trends report. Reducing burnout and turnover by providing employee wellness benefits and skill development opportunities. Improving employee engagement by cultivating workplace culture and better training for managers. And expanding the talent pool by loosening unnecessary hiring requirements. I've been monitoring the attendees. Almost all of you hung in there with us. We certainly appreciate that. And we also hope that, maybe you didn't learn too much that's new, but you feel really good about your direction for 2024 as you see what your peers and other organizations and institutions are doing as it relates to the HR topics that are front and foremost on their minds in 2024. Just a quick recap, as Vanessa mentioned before, the full trends report is included here in the deck, and it will also be included in the follow-up email. We will be sending out a recording if you need to watch back, if you missed anything that Jake or I said and you want to rewatch this. So you'll have the slides, the report, and a recording here. And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't say, if you're interested in learning how NeoEd's tools can help you address some of the challenges we talked about today, you can schedule time to meet with a member of our team, and we'd love to chat with you more about that. We do have plenty of time left if there's any questions. I know Vanessa's been monitoring the chat for us while Jake and I have been paying attention to the presentation, trying not to stumble over our words here. So Vanessa, is there anything that we can help out our attendees with?
Yes, we do have a question. This one is related to like 4-day work weeks. I don't know if Jake or Josh, if either of you have experience with this, but basically asking if 4-day work weeks are a way to maybe improve an engagement strategy, or at least attracting employees better throughout the recruitment process.
Yeah, so definitely have some experience with this and working with probably many of you who are here on the call today over the years. And, I've heard that a lot of folks will reduce to a 4-day work week in the summer months, especially, right? It's a nice way to provide a priority around those 4 days and really make sure that it's time that's worthwhile and productive, and then giving a little bit of time back during that time frame to enjoy the seasonality that's occurring during those months. So that's some of the ways we've seen that be effective. We've seen it for particular types of roles where they'll have flexible work around like a 4-week versus a 5-week work schedule. And so definitely a great trend. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and I'll just say, my institution, my office went to a 4-day work week during the summer. I really appreciated it. Touching on something that I brought up earlier, there's so many great benefits to working in higher education and education in general, and the flexibility that it provides to your schedule is one of those, especially with people with families. I know Jake and I have young families. I know Vanessa's going to get started on that real soon, but having young kids, being able to spend extra time with them during the summer is invaluable. And a lot of people could leave and go into the private sector and seek out higher paying jobs. What keeps them a lot of times in education is their passion for what they're doing, and these other benefits that really need to be reinforced and celebrated by their organizations that are providing them. And then I would also encourage, provide flexibility to individual departments. Not, as Jake pointed out, not every role requires a 5-day work week. And if you can provide that as a benefit to even just different offices that might not need to be open 5 days a week, that's a really, really good retention strategy for those employees, because they're probably not going to be able to find that outside of your organization. Any other questions, Vanessa?
Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll do 2 more. One of the questions being, what are some tips for generating internal policy or process around utilizing AI?
Yeah,
boy, we're neck deep in that one at our own organization. So,
timely. That's
yeah,
very timely. Yeah. Feel free to jump in there, Josh. With,
oh man, well, I mean,
yeah, kind of how we're approaching it.
There's a ton to unpack there, right? I wouldn't say that I've become a foremost expert on AI, but I will say that what we've been doing as an organization internally, just in our company, is benchmarking. So you're here today doing that, so you're already like on the right path. Learn from your peers, find out what others are doing. Do not go into this cold, because there's so much information out there. The potential and power of AI is really, really strong, but it can also be dangerous if you don't know how to leverage it correctly. A lot of information that you put out there into some of the free AI tools that are available, like ChatGPT, the non-paid version of it. If any of that is proprietary and you're part of a research organization, for example, all of that becomes part of the public domain, so to speak, and feeds the engine that supports answers that ChatGPT will give to other people asking questions. So it's just a very powerful tool, but it's something that you absolutely need to understand well before you implement. And I would recommend, shying on the side of being restrictive before and understand the business applications that you're looking to unlock before rolling it out in your organization, and have a clear plan around it. But certainly don't take my word on it. Ask others in your own industry. Talk to folks who also are going through all the same challenges that you are, that you trust. If you very well may have leading AI experts if you're in higher education, right there on your faculty. And I would definitely solicit their thoughts and input. We formed an AI task group in our organization, and so we've taken the best minds that understand AI really well, and they're going out and benchmarking and finding out what other organizations are doing and bringing back that to us.
Yeah, and just one other thing, well said, that I would add on top of that is just NeoEd's commitment to AI within our own functionality in the modules that many of you are using already today. It's a huge factor of our future roadmap for where we're headed as an organization, and it's critical to what we believe is needed, as there's so many decisions that HR and executives within higher education are trying to make on a day-to-day basis, that decision fatigue is very normal. And to provide analytics using AI to help give you the data so that you can back your choices internally is already a part of the modules today, with things like our job boost capabilities, our ability to source information for you in more collaborative ways using the community that's a big part of this database that you have access to. And when we had our initial roadmap review with our product teams early in this year, this was an item that was reviewed extensively, how AI is going to be incorporated into the NeoEd framework continually and additionally as we go forward. So I'm just really excited about it. If you can't tell, we've got a lot of AI that we're going to be able to start sharing with you and your teams additionally on top of what's already a part of the modules today.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's going to unlock some amazing functionality, but back to my original point, we're going to do it carefully and we're going to do it smart, so that your data is always protected, and everything we bring to you is a best practice from industry.
Great, thanks guys. Let's go ahead and close out with this question. We had a question regarding the data around poor management being a reason that people leave their jobs. So do you have any tips on how to get buy-in from those leaders and encourage them to also participate in management training or better ways to do management training for those leaders?
I mean, I've got one for this, Jake. If most of your 4-year and 2-year institutions are going to have management faculty, and I don't know a better way to support a lot of the trends that we talked about, cross-department collaboration, than setting up a management training program led by some of your management faculty. I'm sure most of them would be very delighted to participate in that and want to do it. Obviously, you know, sometimes it needs to be compulsory, and sometimes you want to make it as voluntary as possible so that people opt in and don't feel like they're being told to do something. But I think that really sets the tone. It can set the tone for the way that you want your staff and faculty leaders to be managing in your organization. It's part of the culture of your organization. And if you don't have a strong culture around management and the way that management is to be done, then everyone's perception of that will depend on their leader. And that can lead to some unfortunate pockets of turnover in your organization that's really difficult to get your arms around. And by the time you do, it's too late. So I highly recommend putting a management program together. And I would say maybe the most cost-effective way would be to leverage your own internal resources to provide expertise in that front.
Yeah, well said, Josh. As in my decade of experience working with colleges and universities, worked with a lot of committees. I've worked with a lot of task groups and pilot programs that are focused on professional development and training. And I'd be remiss if I didn't call back to the NeoEd Develop module. Within the Develop module, there are leadership trainings available. There is content that you can lean back into and utilize to help maybe start the creative process for your teams and start to understand what your department heads are focused on most, right? Because as Josh is indicating, right, you have folks that are subject matter experts in these areas, invaluable resources in your institutions that can speak to some of this. And the department heads are the same as some of those faculty members who they really know what's happening in the departments, right? Leaning back into those department heads and seeing what's their feedback from their employees. Even doing some surveys internally to your own employees is a great way to garner some of this information. Here at NeoEd, we have internal surveys that we do on a regular basis to get feedback in some of those key and critical areas for our teams.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you again so much for attending. Please keep an eye out for the webinar recording, the slides, and a copy of the report in your inbox tomorrow. Reach out to us if you have any other questions or would like to learn more about any of our products or other things that you might like to talk to us about. We're here to support you in all of your initiatives that you have for 2024. And thank you so much for attending. We'll see you on the next one.